What's up, guys? Sheer Drop Wrestling Podcast back. We are reviewing the September 8th episode of Smackdown from last night. Got Andy here with me as always. How are we doing today?
Good, man. Having a good day.
Other than the weather, I don't know how it's been you guys. I mean, you're just a couple hours up the road, but it has not been too pretty these last couple of
No,
days for us down here.
it was downpouring pretty bad yesterday, but today it actually hasn't been too bad.
I say maybe it's going your way because it just finished up here, but it has been a dark and rainy day, a little dreary. So we haven't actually, before we started recording, we didn't talk about the episode of SmackDown at all last night. So these are just completely candid opinions between one another. But what'd you think of the episode?
It was all right. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't anything that's really gonna probably be committed to my long-term memory for a considerable amount of time, but it was good for what it was.
That's fair. It's weird to see kind of like Raw and SmackDown can't be good. Like both shows, they can't be good at the same time for
Hmm.
some reason. It's just like this paradox where like if one show is like dragging its heels, the other show is having like fun storylines and fulfilling creative. And it seems to be, I guess, on that pendulum backswing now of like SmackDown seems to be the dragging show. And I don't know if it's because of all of like the Bloodline shenanigans.
Hmm.
I'm having more fun watching Raw these days than I am watching SmackDown, which is crazy because Raw has that entire like extra hour and I'm not
Yeah,
bored by it.
yeah.
Oh, WWE. Just one of the many quirks of being a wrestling fan. You never know which show is going to be good that week. Could be none.
Very true.
It more often than not is none. But yeah. So we get the opening of the night. We get that little bit of payback. Just recap since this is the first episode of SmackDown that's happened since the pay per view. So they're just showing a lot of the recap of the whole event, but a lot of the SmackDown side of things. They are in Boston tonight, and the roster is a little split. At the same, not the same time SmackDown was airing, but there was a sizable portion of the roster down in India for the Superstar Spectacle, I believe it was. It's
I
hard to
think that
keep
was the
track
name
of
of
all of
it.
the
Yeah.
names of things that they're coming up with these days, especially like all the Saudi shows, and now they do the stuff in India every now and again, and they all are like very alliterative names. It's just hard to keep track of.
Yeah.
But first match was a Charlotte Flair and Shotzi tag team against Damage Control, comprising of Bailey and Io. We got a little bit of, I guess, like the recap of what brought this match on. I completely missed SmackDown last week. I didn't think about that until I was watching SmackDown today, and I saw that I had two unwatched episodes in my DVR. I was like, oh, I completely forgot to watch SmackDown last week. Um, so it looked like Shotzi and I believe it was Bailey. They were having their match.
Yeah.
Just numbers game, damage control shenanigans, and then of all people, Charlotte Flair comes out to kind of help even the tides. So then that sets up the tag team match. What'd you think about this?
Um, Felt a little out of nowhere just because I don't know for certain, but I don't think Shotzi and Charlotte have ever really had a past together or any sort of, you know, I mean, they work together, but I've never seen them work together in the ring or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I guess it could be coming from like a line of Charlotte wanting to vie for the belt again. I'm not sure. Uh, Overall, the match was fine, I'd say. Uh, yeah, just felt really kind of out of place, I guess, mostly.
I got you. I mean, I see where you're coming from with the whole like Charlotte wants the belt because it seems like that's all of her like that's her only character
Yeah,
motivation is just I gotta be champion. I don't know how to be anything other than champion.
yeah.
I'm right there with you. I can't think of a time at least where Charlotte and Shotzi were on the same page. It did feel a little thrown together, and maybe it's just because I missed SmackDown last week. Maybe there was
Hmm.
some more that went into it. Maybe there's been some stuff on some weeks of SmackDown that I've just missed that has been like slow burning up to this. But in a vacuum, uh, it seems a little thrown together.
Yeah, I mean, they did touch on it before the match started. They had like a little throwback video package to the closing of the match between um, Shotzi and Bailey from the week prior, and that's like you said, when Damage Control is doing their thing and kind of ganging up on Shotzi and whatnot, is when Charlotte stepped in. But yeah, just of all people, it's
Good old Charlotte Flair, Sheer Drop
yeah.
Wrestling's favorite wrestler. No, that's mean. I didn't have a whole lot of notes about the match itself. I was just trying to just watch the match and look at cool spots and stuff like that, because as much as like I don't believe you, me, or Daniel care for Charlotte Flair as the character,
Yeah.
the Charlotte Flair wrestler, when she wants to be good, is like one of the best.
Yes.
She just doesn't do it on TV a whole lot. Um, but it's it's a Charlotte match. It's okay. Io was already taking a dive to the outside within the first minute of like the bell ringing. So that was fun.
Yeah.
I have more notes about like the finish and the ending of the match than I do like the match itself. The whole part where Asuka pops up seemingly out of nowhere from the timekeeper's area, distracts Dakota, which distracts the rest of Damage Control, and then it allows Shotzi to get another pin on Bailey. So that is 2 pins in a row. That is 2 straight wins for Shotzi, which is always fun to see.
Yeah.
But more of my interest was spent on the post-match rather than the match itself, where now we have the official challenge between Asuka and Io, and I want this to be a prolonged feud. We get it made official later on in the show that this match is happening next week. I don't want it to finish clean next week. I want something happens. Io probably squeaks out a win. The feud goes on. I definitely want to see a pay-per-view blow off between Asuka and Io. People have wanted this feud for so long, and we've never quite got it. I'm trying to think if there was another time where they were like working together, but I don't quite know offhand.
Offhand, I can't think of anything. No,
But this
but
feels
that
like,
doesn't mean that it
but this
hasn't.
feels, yeah,
But
yeah, same. Like just because I can't think of it doesn't mean it hasn't happened. But for an actual like one-on-one solid feud, I'm all in on this.
I agree
I'm
with
so
that. And
excited to see where
yes,
this goes.
I would also really like this to not just end in 1 week and it just that be it. I very well could see, you know, Io not necessarily getting a clean win and Damage Control interfering, or even just, you know, using something from under the ring or anything like that to just prolong it and keep it moving.
Which, I mean, that would actually have me kind of like scratching my head more or less about like who would actually want to go over in the feud,
Hmm.
because I love both of them so much as like competitors and their
Yeah,
characters. Like I miss seeing Asuka with the belt. I miss seeing like the dangerous Asuka, and I hope like Io can bring that out of her. But at the same time, I don't want Io to already like drop the championship. I feel
yeah,
like she
super
she hasn't
quick.
had it for too long. She needs a couple of those like definitive wins to
Yeah,
solidify her reign, and I think beating Asuka would absolutely help with that. But at the same time, it's like I also don't want like Asuka to keep falling by the wayside with these
yeah.
types of things. So I'm
It's a
intrigued,
really hard it's a really hard call there to, decide what's gonna happen.
but I'm intrigued to say the least. So at least SmackDown has that going for it right now. There's a few other high points. As I'm looking back through my notes, maybe I enjoyed this show a little more than I thought as I'm like seeing what I've written. But that was all in the moment, and nothing exactly had like stuck with me. But we go backstage next. we see Jimmy Uso and Paul Heyman. And Jimmy says that, no one ever told him he was out of the bloodline. So he said he's back in. And Paul's basically like, it's not that easy. Like, I got to talk to Roman, like all this other type of stuff. So Heyman cuts a proposition to him. He says, you know what? You handle like the AJ Styles business tonight, and maybe I'll talk to Roman for you. And Jimmy says like that's a deal, and they part ways. We stay on Paul as he keeps walking backstage, and he runs into, funnily enough, AJ Styles, who was definitely close enough to be within earshot of that whole conversation.
I don't know what you're talking about, dude.
He was only
Like,
like 15 feet away, like if that. I understand that like the cameras are the like the fly on the wall type scenario and stuff, but like
they
bro
could have
wasn't that
had,
far away. He had to have heard something.
yeah, they could have had, Paul walking for another 10-ish feet at the very least, or even just like the next room or area over where there would have been some sort of set piece to signify that, hey, this isn't quite like not really in the same room, like the same area type deal.
I don't know. It was just like
Instead
the
of,
like the whole like you didn't want to like put him further away or at least put him like around the corner. Bro is just like a straight shot down the hallway. It's like, what? Of course he heard you. What do you mean? But Heyman starts, just being Paul Heyman, being smarmy, getting under AJ's skin, and Jimmy actually jumps him from behind, roughs him up a little, and he tells Paul, he's like, "You wanted me to take care of AJ, done." And Paul does the call Roman Reigns thing to his phone that I don't think works that way because you'd have to say like, I'm not gonna say it because it'll set my phone off, but the one
yeah.
that's like SIRI, or if you have like an Android phone, you have that to bring up the voice prompt. I don't think you can just say like call whoever and then it works.
I don't know what kind of phone he has, but I know for Android at least, you can just hold a button. There is still the prompt that you're supposed to say, but as long as you're holding the button, I'm pretty sure it will still do what you're doing. But regardless, it probably didn't work that
No.
way.
That's been my biggest gripe with the whole like whenever he does that, I'm like, I don't think it works that way, but I don't know because I don't know what type of phone he has. So we go. Where are we? Are we back? I think we're backstage at this point again, with Damage Control telling Asuka to kind of mind her own business,
Yes, I
and
believe that's
Io
where we are.
says that she's ready for Asuka, and then she actually officially says next week for the title. Like Io's the one issuing it, and we find out later that it is made official. A lot of like backstage stuff, all like back to back to back
There
in
was a
the
lot
first early
of,
minutes.
yeah.
Then
I think overall there was just a lot of backstage segments this week.
yeah, there were a few as I'm looking through everything. We get the LA Knight Monster Pop. They got to let this dude run, and it seems like they are. It seems like they know what they have now. Like he's kind of passed the Miz litmus test,
Yeah.
and now they're really just like seeing what they have and seeing how special of a like person he is for their brand, and I'm all for it.
Yeah. I am also all for it. Uh Demand's just great on the mic. He's a great competitor too in the ring. And I'd like to see them go somewhere with it and not just be like, nah, he's just a fad, and then he fades away. I'd like to see something be going on.
But yeah, he comes out. He calls out the Miz. Basically tells him, I want a match again next week. I'm not finished with you yet, just because Miz keeps running his mouth and stuff like that. So LA Knight's gonna give him a reason to shut it. He gets cut off by Grayson Waller and then eventually Austin Theory. Didn't really pay too much attention as to what Waller and Theory were talking about. I did note down that Theory is still talking about beating John Cena. So that's still his character arc, um,
Yeah.
or his lack thereof, I guess. I thought that after his loss to Ray, they were going to like pull him aside and just do like a hard reset on him, but it seems like they're just going to keep marching him down that same path, which is a little frustrating to see.
Yeah.
Because the dude needs something, and maybe putting him in that tag team with Waller. Well, the tag team, they've only had that one match, but they didn't lose, so now they're like, well, we're
Yeah.
the only undefeated tag team on SmackDown. Maybe being with Waller will like force him to get a little bit of character and not so one beat. But we'll
Well,
see.
that's because he beat John Cena. That's the one
Ah,
beat, right?
he sure did, didn't he? He sure did.
Yeah,
Legend killer Austin Theory.
I didn't have many notes to take on what Waller and Austin Theory had to say too. As Waller put it, La Knight in what he was saying. It was mostly just kind of trying to get at digs at LA Knight, uh, heartedly using his own yeah and stuff against him to try and, pick at him, I guess. But they did not do nearly as good of a job as LA Knight did on the
No,
clap
he
back.
just clapped back, and then they kind of were like, ah, we've been had.
Huh.
But that was the lead in to the match, which I thought was weird because the way that LA Knight ended, like his little promo made it sound like he was doing an impromptu challenge to Austin Theory, and then it turns out no, that match was just always scheduled for tonight. So I don't know, just like his cadence and the words that he chose, I was like, oh, it's an impromptu match, and then the literal match card or the graphic comes up after, and I'm
Yeah.
like, JK, it was a thing all along.
Yeah, it's made even weirder because earlier in the night, towards the beginning, they were going over everything that was supposed to be happening in the night, and that was one of the graphics that came up during that too. So
Oh,
it's
I
not even,
completely missed
yeah,
that.
yeah, you might have not caught it, but since the beginning of the night, they were clear that that was a match that was going to be happening. So that makes it even weirder that the way he was talking about it, it really did make it seem like it was going to be an impromptu thing that they were about to just bang. Now we're going with it. But
We got LA Knight at the end of the day. Can't
that's
pretend to
what
be upset at
matters.
that. So it leads into the match, like we said, and Grayson Waller just kind of sticks around at ringside for commentary. Wonder if he's going to be involved in the finish. He kind of wasn't, actually. Like
I
he
mean,
was and he wasn't.
yeah,
He
yeah,
was like the progenitor of what led to the finish, but he actually wasn't involved himself,
no, yeah,
which is weird.
very odd.
Uh, the crowd chants "Theory sucks," and I hear CM Punk, and I start seeing. I'm just like, there's no way. Like LA Knight is not getting CM Punk chants right now. And then it turns out I was just mishearing it. But dude, I was so mad for a second there. I'm like, there's no way. Like I get like CM Punking Theory, but like LA Knight is right there. Like we're not gonna
Yeah,
do this. Even just tangentially CM Punking LA Knight. We're not gonna do this tonight. We're not doing this at all. But Theory's moveset I have down is like I love his moveset. Like the dude's young,
mhm.
he's still nimble. He can still do a lot of the fun, not flippy stuff, but like some of the more
Just
faster paced,
yeah,
crisp, high impact moves. And I just want a reason to buy into him.
yeah,
I think like if they just gave him a character, I think he could get over.
yeah.
It'd have to be a good character. You'd have to erase the stench of the I'm the guy that beat John Cena.
But he's the guy that beat John Cena. That's
That's it.
that's.
What do you mean that's not a character? Vince told me it was.
Oh no.
Open up that can of worms. No, I'm just like, and his social media presence, like you see him at like signings or when he does like interviews and stuff like that. The dude is
Mhm.
so genuine and like humble, and he's such an actually likable guy. And then he gets on TV and just, I don't know if he's told to just not use any charisma or if just something about being on like TV or something is weird to him, but just like charisma vacuum. It's like,
Yeah.
it's such a fascinating thing to watch. Finish of the match. It's a standard affair. Waller distracts LA Knight. In theory, tries to do a roll up. Knight kicks out. Knight hits the blunt force trauma for the pinfall. Earlier in the match, Waller removes the turnbuckle pad cover from the turnbuckle, and I thought for sure like that was going to play into the match somehow.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it, I feel like it kind of did towards the end there, from what I was
a little bit,
watching,
because like,
because it wasn't so much so that. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you
oh,
off.
you're good,
It
you're good.
wasn't. It wasn't so much that like either of them got thrown into it and they got disoriented from that, but I feel that uh, it was more so them trying to throw each other into it, so they were spinning each other around a lot and really focusing on that. So, and I feel like that, or at least Austin Theory was focusing on trying to get LA Knight into the corner there,
Yeah,
and
and then
LA
when it
Knight
got
was more
reversed,
so,
Theory had to like hit the brakes, and that
yeah,
gave LA Knight just enough time to capitalize and be a opportunist. That's the word
yeah,
for it.
yeah.
So
So like a little bit, like kind of, I guess, but no, ultimately it didn't really do much.
like I thought for sure that like when Waller got back up on the ringside for that
Hmm.
second distraction that led to the roll up, I thought for sure something was going to involve like his head hitting like the turnbuckle or whatever, and then maybe like Theory gets a cheap, a roll up again off
Yeah,
that. But the guy that undid the turnbuckle played no bearing in the actual finish, and no one went into the turnbuckle. It's breaking all the wrestling tropes, and I don't
yeah.
know how I don't know how I feel about that.
It's weird.
It's uncharted territory, but for like all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of a post match thing. It looks like Waller tries to get back into the ring, sneak around LA Knight, and try to like blindside him. And just LA Knight uses like the force or something and just like senses him, turns around, and Waller's like, actually, like, I'm good. I'm gonna go check on this other guy real quick.
Hold up, I was just trying to get to the exit, man. I promise.
It's just a
Sorry.
prank, bro. It's just a prank. Um, I hope that because I believe the LA Knight Miz match is next week.
Hmm. Yeah, because I don't remember if it happened. No, it didn't happen right after that. It happened later in the night, I believe. I don't know. I just remember at some point LA Knight had gone backstage and had talked to name is escaping
Oh,
me.
Pierce.
Pierce, thank you. Had talked to Pierce and was like, "Hey, I'm going to shut the Miz up, pretty much. Like, give me a match against him." And Pierce said, "Yeah, cool, you got it."
Which I hope that's got to be the fin. Although if it's a TV match, oh, I could see the Miz getting a cheap like win, and then it prolongs it to like another pay per view, and then I guess LA Knight goes over again. Like this, anything involving the Miz, like you could say, yeah, the blow off is at Fastlane. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like that
Yeah,
checks out.
yeah,
I don't want LA Knight feuding with the Miz anymore. I guess this is just a formality that they need to do. Maybe he just goes 2 for 2 against Miz, and like this is it. Like that's the definitive end, and then Miz
yeah,
has no ground to stand on anymore, and then LA Knight can actually go and do other things like he should.
yeah.
We got Kathy Kelly. She's backstage. She's rounded up AJ Styles post beatdown and asks him, if he's still okay to compete. He kind of rips off the exact same line Seth said on Raw, where if he can stand, he can fight. And I don't know if that was intentional, but I'm like, we literally just heard this like 5 days ago, dude. Like, you're supposed to do your own thing. And he says basically, Jimmy can jump him and blindside him as many times as he wants. It's not going to like help him or whatever. And I have
Yeah.
in my notes that Jimmy had the chance to do the funniest thing possible after AJ says, well, he can jump me as many times as he likes. Bro, it should have happened again.
It
I would have
should have.
lost it. Just, right then and there in front of Kathy, in front of the world, right after saying, doesn't matter how many times you do it. Like, okay, here's one more.
Yeah.
But no one knows how to write good TV. Cowards, every last one of them. We get newest Judgment Day member, Dominic Priest, almost, according to Mike Rome. We get the Judgment Day comprised of Finn and Priest tonight versus Brawling Brutes, the team of Ridge and Butch. I don't know. I guess Sheamus was at the India show. I didn't see anything about it. Maybe I just missed it entirely. I haven't looked at any coverage of it. I just can't think of any other reason why Sheamus wouldn't have been there or have been involved in some manner with this. But it's one of those things where the Judgment Day comes out, and then there's a bunch of stuff that happens backstage. There's commercial breaks. So they're just kind of idling around in the ring until the match actually gets started. And then this is when we get that cutback, like you said, with LA Knight and Paul Heyman and Pierce. It's Paul talking to Pierce, and Paul is kind of trying to like bend his ear and be like, look, I just want to know which Raw superstars coming over to SmackDown. It seems that, Paul's a little antsy because there may or may not be certain people on the Raw roster that may or may not be fully capable of dethroning Roman Reigns. It's Cody.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to be so bummed if it's actually not Cody that comes over, but that's the only thing that makes sense to me. I can't think of anyone else really. Unless for whatever reason they like trade Seth or something, which they absolutely wouldn't do because he has the title.
Yeah, he has the title, so that... Yeah.
But I also wouldn't mind re-seeing Seth and Roman, since Seth has like the "you've never beaten me" card. And then even during Roman's title reign or whatever, Seth won by DQ, but I could, see Roman throwing it back, in the way that was like, look, I beat you so bad, I ended up losing that match. Like, I beat your ass so bad, I lost.
Yeah.
Which with current like Roman delivery, I kind of want to hear him say that. But I'm also curious about which Raw superstar it is. If it's not Cody, I'm curious to see who it is first off, and then where they're going like storyline with it, because I can't think of too many other people where it would actively progress the storyline and kind of get us a glimpse as to Roman's next challenger and his future and stuff. But that is when LA Knight comes in, and that's when he says he wants that match with Miz. Pierce says he will get it done. And then Heyman and LA Knight start having a face-to-face. And Heyman says he's a big fan. He knows, all of his shtick. But he starts getting like that little more menacing Paul Heyman, and basically ultimately tells him like, don't interrupt my business though. And he's like, are we understood? And LA Knight does like the, yeah, but in like a very angry, upset, yeah. Do you think we're going to get Roman Reigns versus LA Knight in any regard?
I don't think so. No. Paul actually had me going for a moment there where I thought he was going to hint at like jumping ship from the whole Bloodline stuff and just
Managing
be like,
LA
yeah,
Knight.
this guy's cool. He needs a push. And my brain was just firing off like, oh, dude, what if Paul Heyman was pushing LA Knight? Yo!
I feel like that'd be a downgrade though. Because then
for
LA
Paul,
Knight wouldn't.
yeah.
Because then he wouldn't get to be his own mouthpiece.
Yeah, true.
Unless we get Paul Heyman actually doing like the yes, then in that case I'm back on board. But no, I could see LA Knight doing something with Solo, maybe.
Yeah, I could see LA Knight playing into the whole Bloodline thing going on, especially as a way to kind of give him a push and get him to do something else other than feud with Miz.
Yeah, really put him in like that main event spotlight, and then it's like a sink or swim type moment. Like, hey, can you hold yourself with the literal A storyline in this company over the last 3 years, or like is it going to swallow you?
Yeah.
That could also open up down the line where if like Jimmy does get himself back in the good graces, you could get Jimmy and Solo versus, LA Knight and someone else. Fuck it, John Cena.
I was about to say John Cena.
Just start throwing Cena everywhere until that like the Screen Actors Guild thing, like until the sides can come to a compromise and Cena's like back in WWE. Fuck it, just throw him everywhere. We miss John Cena. Never thought we'd live to see the day, but just throw that man on my TV. I'll watch it. I swear. So that takes like 5 or so minutes. The Judgment Day are still just in the ring, and then they cut their own promo before the match as well, and it's like, holy God, like, can we get on with this though?
Yeah.
They just start talking about Judgment Day things. Dom gets booed so bad, I think he was like actually going to die.
They gotta be pumping extra booze into that
It
stadium or
sounded
something, right?
very like piped in.
Like, because I don't get me wrong, I can believe a crowd can boo over that man loud enough if they need
Yeah,
to.
yeah. When Daniel and I went to Baltimore, we booed the shit out of Dominic Mysterio.
But like, they gotta either be lowering his mic or pumping in extra sound or something.
Yeah.
Just because of, especially, yeah, I just
They're
don't get
loud,
me wrong,
but it
I
feels
think
like artificially loud.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I find it absolutely hilarious.
Oh, it's so endearing. Like, he has the most heat on him right now.
Yeah.
And he's learning to take it in stride. He doesn't seem to be like as thrown off by the boos. He doesn't lose his composure anymore. He just keeps cutting his promo.
Yeah.
And he keeps giving the crowd what they want, which is him talking so they can keep booing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very interesting aspect to his character. And then as soon as like he hands the mic to someone, like the crowd just shuts up.
Yep.
Like if like Finn starts talking or Priest starts talking, everyone's like, "Ooh, we got to listen." And then the moment Dominic like touches the microphone, it just turns like cancerous. But this was an interesting thing because this could also start turning some wheels, and it kind of plays into how the night ended up overall. Priest says that they did something that not even the Bloodline nor Roman Reigns could do, which was beat KO and Sammy and take those tag titles.
Yeah.
Which is interesting considering how the night ended up. So makes me question the motives or like what do they want out of this?
Yeah. I have
they
a big
clearly
question.
just said that they're better than the Bloodline, and then spoiler alert, they help the Bloodline later on in the evening. So it's like, what's the end game?
Yeah. That's probably my biggest question and takeaway of the night, but we can save that for then.
And honestly, I'm not going to give that up to like the Bloodline for SmackDown. I'm going to say this is still a continuation of the Judgment Day stuff that's going on Raw. So the Judgment Day saved this episode of SmackDown. Would you look at that?
Yeah.
Who'd have thought we'd ever see it? They hand it back to Dom. Dom calls out Jey Uso again, tells him to just, keep thinking about that offer. He always has a place in the Judgment Day, which I'm still vehemently against.
Yep.
And then finally, mercifully, I can't say that word. You guys know what I'm trying
mercifully.
to say. Yes, that's the one. That's the one. They get cut off by the Brutes. Ridge gets on the stick a little, just tells him, "You're not going to win tonight. We're going to win tonight. We're the good guys." But says, he's the big and scary one, but he's not the one you guys need to be worried about. You guys need to be worried about Butch. And Finn laughs. And I have in the notes, Andy, please get the soundbite of Finn laughing for our soundboard.
Okay, I can do that.
And then Butch breaks his fingers.
Yeah, I thought it would have been just as good if Butch just kind of took his fingers and gnawed on him.
I can see that. That's also that checks out. Pete Dunne wouldn't have done that.
No.
But
Absolutely.
Butch 100% would.
Yes.
There's a stark difference to be made there. And then we actually get Judgment Day versus the Brawling Brutes for real this time. It cuts to Pretty Deadly a couple times backstage with, I think, I kind of want to see where they go. The one guy's in a wheelchair because of Ridge. I don't remember who. I'm so bad with the names of Pretty Deadly. I want to say it's Elton that's in there. I don't know. I don't know either of their names on their own.
I didn't know Pretty Deadly existed until watching this episode.
Ah, yeah. So I really like them. They
Or
were from NXT, I believe,
mhm,
part of the UK, and then they came over to NXT Main, and then they got called up a little while ago. Their shtick is the whole flamboyant heels, uh,
I mean,
the pretty boy archetype,
yeah,
but
I
they're
can
also
really
just
get behind that.
they're really good in the ring.
Good, good.
I have a side tangent of how
Hmm.
crazy how in NXT I personally had Tyler Bate pegged for like having the higher ceiling once uh, he or Pete Dunne got onto the main roster. And wow, was I wrong. Bate's still in NXT doing a weird, like, holistic shaman guru type character. He's like if like
Hmm.
magic mushrooms were sentient right now. Like that's his gimmick. He's no longer the big strong boy. Um, I'm kind of bummed about that. And then Dunn, as soon as everyone like when he got called up to Maine, and then he got paired with the Brutes, and everyone's like, "Oh, cool." And then Sheamus is like, "Yeah, his name is Butch." People are like, "No,
Uh,
no, it's not." I I think it'd be weird having him go back to Pete Dunne at this point.
it really would.
Like
I
I'm
wasn't.
all
I
in on
wasn't.
Butch.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly there. I wasn't really there for it when he initially got that name change and character change and everything to Butch. Like, no, what happened to Pete Dunne? I want more Pete Dunne, but now I just want more Butch.
And they
Like,
worked it in a way where he still, I guess, officially is known as Pete Dunne because
mhm.
Sheamus and Ridge played it off as like, oh yeah, he's like one of our drinking buddies. We know him as Butch, which I've always still wanted to see in like a feud or a promo or something where, someone calls him Butch and he has to cut him off and he's like, that's not my name. And they're like, what do you mean? He's like, my name's Pete. They call me Butch.
You're not allowed to call me
You're
Butch.
not allowed to call me Butch.
That would be
And that would be
great.
the whole genesis of the feud right there. Like someone called him Butch and he's like, you don't know me like that.
Yeah,
Like
that
that's
would be
it, easy.
fantastic.
Then he bites his fingers or something.
Yeah.
It writes itself. But this was a pretty fun match. I think this was
Mhm.
absolutely my match of the night. Um, I mean, I like the Brutes. I like Judgment Day. There was
Yeah.
a lot of fun back and forth action. We have the finish. So Priest hits a South of Heaven on Ridge, which
Yes.
Homeboy jumped very high in the air for that. He went up.
Yeah, he did.
I didn't think he was going to come back down. And then he South of Heaven's Butch onto Ridge, who is still prone, lying in the ring, and then Finn hits the coup de grace on Ridge again, and then that gets the win. And it's like,
Yep.
God damn, like the dude's already dead. Stop.
Man ate two south of heaven
Yeah,
before
essentially
that.
like 1.5 South of Heavens, and then a
Yeah.
double stomp, and it's like, stop. Like the dude's dead. He's pin him. Get him to a local medical facility. But after the match, this was really, really cool. So Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits come out. Uh, Montez always looks good in a suit.
Yeah.
Bobby always looks good in a suit. I did notice he was just wearing the jacket. He wasn't wearing some sort of shirt underneath of it. Power move.
I thought he had a shirt on underneath, but it was just open really low.
Was it?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
okay,
This
okay.
is like an extra. It was open really low, so
Yeah.
you really couldn't tell.
It's like, is he just wearing the jacket? I'm like if I looked like Bobby Lashley, like yeah, I'd probably just do that too, or I'd never wear a shirt. But like, no shirt with a jacket is
Power
bold,
move.
very
Yeah.
bold.
Came to the ring ready to fight.
Oh yeah. And then I have just Dawkins looks very uncomfortable in a suit. Like he doesn't strike me as a
Yeah,
suit person.
he did look really good
Yeah,
in
he
the suit
sharp
though. They
dressed.
all looked fantastic.
But I guess it's
But
because Dawkins, all we've ever seen him wrestle in is like a tank top and basketball shorts. He just doesn't strike me as like the suit person. Like if you told me like which three of these of these three people, which one doesn't wear suits on the regular, I'd be like, it's Dawkins. I lost my notes. Technical difficulties. But they just basically have a little stare down,
mhm,
and I'm very curious to see how this goes. And I'm wondering if the order in which they were standing constitutes anything towards the feuds that we're getting, because it had Lashley across from Priest, and
yeah,
I would have pegged Finn personally. But I guess Priest, since he has the Money in the Bank briefcase right now, he's like the de facto head of Judgment Day.
mhm.
Well, I guess there's no leader of Judgment Day. The last time there was a leader, they kind of beat him up, and then now we might be going to AEW. Who knows? But I'd be super super excited for that feud, especially if it leads to singles feuds or tag teams, or if we just get like that 6 man at
Yeah,
like a pay
just
per
like a
view or something.
faction beat
Huge
down
match.
between the two of them. Yeah.
I'd imagine Judgment Day would have to go over in that. I don't think you'd pull the trigger on.
No, I don't think that they would get the win. I don't know whether they could do it where, they don't get a clean loss from Judgment Day, and Judgment Day does their Judgment Day shenanigans to get the win, so we can get another match like that later on down the line too, which would be fine, I think. But I am excited to see where they're going to go with this. And I also do agree that the lineup and like how they, were standing across from each other probably will play into how they're going to do things. I just think it's weird that they wouldn't have put Dawkins and you just said his name. Why can't I think
Montez.
of it? Montez across from the tag champs. They had them, a bit askew from that.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be interesting.
Yeah. To be fair, that would have had Lashley lined up with Dom, and that's just that's some
You don't
mercy
want to,
killing.
yeah, you don't want to
That's
see.
face the wall. We cut backstage after that. We see the rest of the OC. So we see Gallows, Anderson, and Mia Yim, and they're doing something. They're watching something on Anderson's phone. And Styles comes over and he's like, "You guys have any idea what's going on tonight?" And they're like, "Yeah, you got that match with Jimmy." And he's like, "Oh, so like you watched me get my ass beat a couple minutes ago. Like you guys are fully aware of that." And then he smacks the phone out of Anderson's hand, and he's like, "You know what? If this is how you guys are going to be, don't come out to my match tonight. I only want people who are going to support me," more or less. This would be a really goofy way to break up the OC, considering they've never done anything with the OC.
Yeah, I would agree
Like
with
they've
that.
never,
That'd be
there's
really
nothing of
odd.
substance that they've ever done.
Mm-mm. Also, I totally forgot that they were back in
Yeah,
WWE.
because like
Just
it's like I
went
think
over my
they,
head.
I guess pulling the curtain back a little, kayfabe, brother.
Yeah.
Um, I think Gallows and Anderson have something like in their contract where if they're just not going to be used on TV, they don't have to show up, unlike like other people. So they're
Hmm.
literally like if they're not there, they are not there. So
Huh.
so it's kind of easy to forget
Easy.
about them when they're
Yeah.
literally not there and they're not used in backstage segments or whatever, even just like candidly being there when AJ's around or something.
Yeah.
And then Mia Yim, I forgot she was there. Just full stop.
Yeah. Just saying.
Haven't
Earlier in
seen
the
her on
night,
anything in a while.
it was during some backstage promo. She was talking to someone, and someone else had come in to interrupt. I was like, wait, oh yeah, that's Mia Yim. I guess she is still part of the roster, just because they haven't done anything.
Mm.
She hasn't been in any sort of, you know, pay-per-view related thing or even story that would have gotten a spot as like a video package at a pay-per-view or anything.
So here's hoping that they figure out something to do with the OC. If
Hopefully.
I wouldn't mind seeing OC Judgment Day,
That could be neat.
just
Yeah.
a 6 man, or I mean, you could literally do the 4v4
Yeah,
in the
you
whole thing.
could.
And I don't know if they've done that before. Now that I'm saying it, it sounds like something that's happened, but maybe it hasn't. And if it has happened, run it back. Judgment Day are champs now. You could literally have a match and they're like, we're gonna put every title on the line, winner take all right now, and then Judgment Day still wins because like of course they would. But
Yeah, Judgment Day's still gonna win.
let's see. So we get some promo cards for SmackDown next week, which is where we see that John Cena is going to be on the Grayson Waller effect. The last time they shared a ring, I believe, was that 30-minute Money in the Bank promo, which let's hope this one's not 30 minutes. We get the LA Knight versus The Miz, and then the official Io versus Asuka, and that is going to be for the Women's Championship. We get a little bit of an Asuka backstage thing. Asuka kind of says the same thing in every single promo, which is no one's ready for Asuka. She says that Damage Control forgot about her, and she never got a rematch for her title. So as far as she is concerned, Io is just holding it for her. She says that no one's ready for Asuka. I'm gonna beat Io next week. I'm Asuka. I don't think she will. Something's gonna happen, like we were discussing earlier. This better not be a one-off. They better not do that to us. I
Yeah,
want to see
I hope
something
not.
more pulled out of this
I,
for sure.
I, yeah, I don't think Asuka's going to be taking it back. If Asuka would be taking it back, that would happen at a pay-per-view. I'm sure. Uh,
Or I guess what best case scenario would be Asuka loses because of like the numbers game or something like that,
mhm.
and then tag match bring Kyrie back. The reports of her signing to WWE for some time now.
May or may not have been what I was thinking
Yeah, get a
most of
little
the night.
Kabuki Warriors.
Yeah, like wow, they threw up the. I think it was whenever they threw up the image for the Asuka Io match. It's like wow, this would be a fantastic time. Bring Kyrie back if they're gonna go somewhere with this whole feud. Bring her into it too.
Something
Great
something numbers
return.
game. I miss Kyrie.
Me too.
I miss seeing that elbow. So good. And then that leads us to our main event of the evening. It is Jimmy Uso and AJ Styles. When this match started, when we were at like entrances and stuff, there was like 20 or 25 minutes left. I noticed on the ticker, and then it turns out that was actually just so they could air some commercials.
Yeah, really at the end of the night, kind of like I guess what you had said happened for Raw this past week. It really just felt like it was, hey, here's where we have to meet those commercial limits that we're supposed to meet because it felt like just about after every either entrance or like a little talking cut, there was yet another commercial.
Yeah, and I know that they're obviously different channels, they're different networks and stuff like that. I wouldn't have
Mhm.
minded personally. Just take all those commercials from the Intercontinental match from Monday, just shove them here. Just shove them here. I could not have cared less about this match. Spoiler alert. I I don't buy Jimmy Uso personally as a main event player.
Mhm.
I think he's better on the microphone than Jay, but Jay kind of has that like intangible where like sometimes him not being as smooth makes it more endearing and it makes it feel more genuine.
Mhm.
I think Jay is the better in-ring competitor, and I think that is why they have Jimmy kind of sticking around in the bloodline and they have Jay being on his own. The man's nickname is Main Event, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
So I think Jimmy being in there, main event solo against AJ Styles. I was like, I don't care
Yeah,
personally.
I found it really hard to get behind it, and also just the fact that they were really playing into the whole he's not used to being a solo competitor, just that whole thing they were going with there, and having him walk around the ring right as the match started, pretty much after he got one move hit on him.
Yep.
I was like, wow, they're if they're trying to really push him as like a, oh, I can do this on my own kind of dude, really, really rough start.
Yeah, not the best.
No.
You go back, you see Jay on Monday come out through the crowd, do the thing with like the arms and stuff. Everyone in that arena buys Jay in the
Yeah.
spot that he's in. And maybe that's just the route that they're going down, where they want to make it seem like Jimmy is like the more like tepid and the more like unsure of himself, and that's why he can't find his footing, versus
Mhm.
Jay kind of has known who he was this whole time, outside of the whole, 2.5 years of the Roman stuff.
Yeah.
And if that's what they're going for, then like, I'll eat crow on that. But I think just Jimmy, I don't see him in the spot that they want to have him in.
No.
So about partway through the match, Solo and Paul come out. Even though Paul was like, yeah, Solo's not here tonight. He's like, Roman's not here tonight. Solo's not here tonight. Solo was there. Which, yeah, of course he is. So then the dynamic shifts. It doesn't feel anymore like it's Jimmy versus AJ at this point. Now it's Jimmy versus the gaze of Paul and
Yeah.
Solo, and it doesn't feel like the match anymore. It feels more about like what's going to happen after the match.
Yep.
The finish, AJ takes out Jimmy on the outside, takes a shot at Solo, knocks Solo off his feet, and then back in the ring, he hits Jimmy with the phenomenal forearm, gets a clean win, is able to get out of there before Solo is able to get in and absolutely like break him in half. And then this is where the confusing part happens. The Judgment Day come out, and they start beating up AJ. They roll him back in the ring. Solo hits him with a spike. And then they're just all left looking at each other. Judgment Day are like all smiley, happy and stuff. And Solo just looks like confused out of his mind. Like the edibles are just starting to kick in.
Well, I'd say Solo's that's about the look that most people probably had on their face during that.
Yeah,
That was my
he
biggest
just like me for
question.
real.
Yeah, that was my biggest question for the night of like, what are they going for? Because they had just in their promo before the Judgment Day, before their promo or before their match in their promo, had essentially issued what felt like a challenge to the Judgment Day of like, ha, so we're better than you guys. So I don't know why in the world they would go out there and do that.
I don't. I can't even like fantasy book something. Like the only thing that immediately came to my mind was like them weaseling their way in to maybe get closer to Roman for like Priest. But then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, surely you guys aren't thinking about like cashing in on Roman. Like
Of all people,
Seth is right there. Like the man can't walk.
yeah.
But I mean, other than that, like I can't think of anything.
No, I can't either. Because I mean, even if they wanted to do the whole like we'll go after Roman shtick, like pretty sure the Money in the Bank just lets them go after whoever.
Mm-hmm.
What reason would they have to like? What need would there be to get in closer to the Bloodline and get involved with them in some feud some way?
I guess maybe to like not pull the wool over their eyes, but
Uh,
give them a nice little ruse and be like, look, we were never thinking about you. Like we're on the same team here.
mhm.
Oh, bring back the old hashtag beat up AJ Styles. That was fun while that was going on. Um, yeah. Other than that, I was left more confused than like entertained by
Same.
the ending tonight. And I'm sure there's going to be something that goes on. Maybe they even address it on Monday and they're like, I bet you want to know why we did what we did Friday. Or maybe they just wait until Friday where it would make more sense to
To
discuss it.
bring it up. Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, even if they wanted to, yeah, even if they wanted to just hint at the Judgment Day wanting to go after uh Roman or anything, they could just do more of what they did in the past couple weeks of them just sitting backstage watching the matches going on,
mm,
waiting till the end, and then someone calling and like, maybe now's the time. Nah, no, it's not the time. They can just do more of that. But and if anything, I would think that would be better for them because then it's, you know, if they are trying to do the whole pull of wool over their eyes and everything, that shows that they're already got their eyes on them more than if they just weren't saying or doing anything in too well, I mean, saying whatever they want, I guess, but like not getting themselves actually involved in any of their business.
mm.
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Guess we'll just have to tune in next week.
That's how they get you.
That's how they get you. Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, the ending, despite its confusion, is evocative. I definitely am a little more curious as to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm not too fond of where the placement of everyone is at on the card, I kind of want to see how it plays out. But that's more tantamount, like I was touching on earlier, to I think the more like the Judgment Day aspect rather than Bloodline aspect.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Because again, the only thing that really calls out to me from the night was the Judgment Day tag match. It was like, oh yeah, wait, that's just the Judgment Day. That's not SmackDown.
surprise. But yeah, definitely looking forward to the Asuka Io match.
Mhm.
I hope they put that, main event of SmackDown next week. It should be because it is a title defense.
Yep.
Um, but it probably won't be because it's the women's division. They'll probably do something Bloodline related in the main event, and we will all cry about it.
Sadly.
Woo. All right, but overall, okay episode of SmackDown. Like you said,
Yeah.
there wasn't anything super memorable about it, but it was definitely serviceable, and it told some stories, got some things across, and like we've been saying for the past couple minutes, if nothing else, makes you want to tune in for next week just to see what the heck is going on
Yep.
the main or the main event storylines between Raw and SmackDown. All right, but do you have anything else? Any other thoughts, questions, concerns?
No, I don't think so. No. Uh, yeah. I'd be interested to see if something happens, I guess, next week with the whole Grayson Waller effect show, and if they're pushing John Cena paired up with LA Knight against Theory and Waller, I guess. That's about the most I could see coming from that, really. Yeah.
We can only hope. All right. Well, until next time, guys, remember to subscribe, hit that like, leave us a comment, let us know what was your favorite part of SmackDown, if you had one this week, and why was it the tag match?
Why
uh,
was it Judgment Day?
yeah, why was it Judgment Day? Why was that your favorite part of SmackDown? It's crazy. But this has been the Sheer Drop Wrestling team signing off until next time.
Have a good night.